Well, Jim, our final question this week sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi. Ted DiBiase recently said he regretted the way he left WWF in the 90s because he sent Vince McMahon a letter to announce he was going to WCW. DiBiase said, quote, "I got an opportunity to come back, and I finally got a chance to sit down with Vince and said, I should have come and talked to you. He was okay with it. We mended the fence, and it has been mended ever since." What are your thoughts on the way DiBiase left for WCW? And do you think he will ever mend the fence? This is from Charlie. And do you think he will ever mend the fence with the state of Mississippi for stealing millions of dollars?
No! I don't know. That he may have time to look at some fences over that one. You know, well, Ted he wasn't wrestling. He was managing because obviously he had his was neck, right? He had a bad neck. It's why he had to quit.
I believe
in-ring wrestling,
yeah.
Right? He was managing Steve Austin as the ringmaster. And Vince was hurt, somewhat insulted that Ted did leave at that point to go to WCW because of the $1 Million Man gimmick and the, fact that Ted had been a big deal in the WWF several years beforehand. But at that point, he couldn't wrestle. He was managing Austin. They were more or less, that was where Vince was trying to use some of his previous generation stars to get some of the newer guys over. And with, not stellar results. Remember Honky Tonk Man managing Rockabilly, Billy Gunn? It was like the new delinquent son in the 90s of the 80s WWF character. Honky Tonk Man spawned Rockabilly, and the $1 Million Man spawned the Ringmaster. He was using Teddy because Teddy could still talk and do a good promo, and he had a name, and people knew who he was. But that was not a good combination, Ted and Austin, because of all the reasons we've talked about. Austin didn't want to be the Ringmaster. Because there was really nothing about the Ringmaster that was anything. The way Vince came up with that or decided on that was just that everybody told him, well, Austin's a great worker in the ring. So, okay, well, he'll be the Ringmaster, because that's another way of saying, I, Vince McMahon, think you're the shits and you can't talk and you look like Ned, but you can work, so we'll give you a manager, whatever. And thankfully, when Ted left, that left the door open for Steve Austin. So Ted leaving the company, and I'm not even knocking Ted here, but Ted leaving the company made them more money than anything the $1 Million Man ever did in the company, when you think about it. Having said that, Ted left because they were throwing money away like drunken sailors in WCW, and he could get a guaranteed contract for buku amounts more of money then Vince was paying him to do the same thing, wander around and talk, and he didn't even have to work as hard because he got lost in the shuffle down there when they signed 200 people. And wasn't he basically, his WCW career consisted of being a partial manager of one of the NWO groups?
He was an early NWO member, which made you think he was actually going to have a bigger role to play, and then he just kind of faded into the background. That's why they brought Virgil in as Vincent, was you had DiBiase there. It made sense.
Yeah.
And then he kind of faded into the background.
Except Teddy wasn't wrestling. So
that's right.
He was just in the NWO. But so he had to have his own NWO manager, even though he wasn't. So, yeah. But he made a ton of money.
But you couldn't say that because he couldn't be the $1 Million Man. So there's a man who appears to have some wealth at ringside.
But that's, again, that's why he left. And it was actually the better thing. And that's probably why Vince made up with him and buried the hatchet, because he looks back and said, yeah, fuck, if you hadn't have left, I would have kept Austin doing what he was doing instead of just giving up and waving my hands in the air and letting him be himself.